Hi everyone, and welcome to the TradeFocus video series. This is video number 3 in the Mission Million Money Management topic. And I want to just quickly recap a couple of things that I have discussed in the previous videos, mainly because I'm going to build on that in today's video. And so the first video, I addressed why money management should dictate the strategies that you consider. And I went through all the reasons of why that is. And I think it becomes rather obvious. And what you're going to see today is actually this being enhanced, this concept and this principle being enhanced quite a bit. And then I talked about how realizing benefits of money management requires patience, and that was in the second video. And what I'm going to do in today's video is I'm going to talk about growing your account faster without more initial risk. Now, in the Trading Foundations videos, you notice that I focused a lot on the risk, making sure that you understand the risk, making sure you understand what to expect with regard to drawdown, with regard to length of drawdown, with regard to trade size, and why you should start off very, very slow and very, very small, regardless of what it is that you're trading. And the reason I do that is so that you can get to this next part. So I focused on the risk in the Trading Foundations quite a bit. Now I'm going to focus on more about why you want to make sure that you survive and stay with everything long enough to reap the benefits, and why it doesn't take an absolute incredible holy grail strategy to do really, really well over the long term if you'll just keep it simple, keep it small, and let the compounding do the work. Now, I will let you know that if you start to find yourself getting lost in this video, especially if you have not gone through the money management course yet, please do not fret. Once you get through the money management course, you will begin to understand, it will begin to be much more comfortable for you and whatnot, but really it's exposure. The more you expose yourself to this line of thinking, the more logical it's going to become to you, the more simple it's going to become to understand. And so if you're not there yet, which you won't be if you haven't gone through the money management course, then watch this video and try to take away the principle and the concept that's trying to be conveyed in the video, as opposed to understanding all the details with regard to the video. The details will come later. You're not creating your trading plan tomorrow. All right, this is down the road. So I'm introducing the concept so you can begin to wrap your mind around it. And especially if you're an absolute beginner trader, do not fret. This is just the beginning. So you don't need to understand everything just yet. I'm laying out concepts and principles to you, and the details come later. So in this program, there's a wide range of traders that range from being a small trader who barely has $5,000 to trade, and then there are others who literally have millions that are available to them to trade. However, everyone, as I've already said, should start off in a similar way, very, very small. Now, very, very small might be a little bit different for the $1 million trader. Very, very small is obviously going to be limited to what a smaller trader, let's say with a $5,000 account, begins with. They're going to have to start off with a minimum 1 unit, no matter what, and make sure that whatever strategy that they choose to include in their plan can be realistically traded in a $5,000 account. And of course, there are many, many strategies that can be, as long as you keep the risks low. But when you begin to a new approach and you personally have no history with that approach, okay, so it doesn't matter what what somebody else has done with it. Doesn't matter what somebody else has been able to achieve. We're talking about what you've been able to achieve. If you have never experienced success with a particular approach, then you need to go through what I call a proving stage. And small accounts generally want to go faster because they're small. They want to go from small to big really, really, really fast. Whereas big accounts think that trade size should automatically be bigger just simply because they can't generate a return if they go too small, or the return will be so minuscule that it's completely ridiculous to even trade at that point. But still, what you're doing is you're going through this proving concept, this proving stage, if you will, so that you can get to the trade size that matters. You do not want to trade a trade size that you've not proven that could put substantial amount of your trading account at risk. I've seen both small traders and big traders end in the exact same way with this mentality, crushed. In fact, uh, one memory sticks out to me so distinctly. Several years ago, I was at a very small, I don't want to even say it was a conference. A group of traders decided to get together and they invited a few speakers, if you will. When I say a group of traders, I mean there's maybe 7 or 8 traders in the room. But they got together and they said, hey, let's bring on 2 or 3 traders who know what they're talking about in their whatever perspective area, and then let's all benefit from these speakers, right? So I went to this thing and did my spiels on money management, obviously, and taught them as much as I could. And I had a gentleman here who said, you know what, I'm starting with 500,000. I'm day trading the ES. I've never traded this before, but I think I should start off with 8 contracts. And I said, why? And he said, well, because I have 500,000. I said, no, you should start off with 1, maybe 2 max, and then let your actual success grow it because there's plenty of room, plenty of time to grow it, right? And so about 3 months later, he calls me back and he says, "Look, I'm in trouble and I don't know what to do. I have lost over half of my account because I started trading with 8 contracts and the drawdown was way bigger than I thought it would be." So, that's I see this a lot where traders think that just simply because they have more money, they can just risk more money. And I've seen small traders alike uh, want to grow their account so badly that they just throw all risk principles to the wind. So you don't want to do that. And again, I'm trying to convey to you the concept of why you don't want to do that. And the reason is because you don't need to. So, in order to grow faster without significantly taking on more risk than what you should, the time to do this is when you have profits. All right? If you wait until you have profits, then you don't have to worry about being in a situation where you lost half your account because you started off trading bigger than you should have and bigger than what you've been able to prove your ability to trade any particular strategy should allow, right? So the way that you grow faster, and in money management number 2, I said patience is very, very important because it can be very slow at the beginning. And there's no question that that is the case. It can be very slow at the beginning, but once you go through that proving stage, things can really pick up, especially if you apply the concept that I'm about to share with you. So let's say you start off with 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 units. That's your starting unit size. And again, if you have $1 million account, I still say don't start off with more than 3 or 4 units. With a small account, obviously you start off with 1 period, but 1 unit might be 100 shares of stock, for example, and that would carry obviously a little bit more risk. So I'm just using that as an example. But a 1 unit may also be considered 1 single spread that has a 3-2 ratio in the legs. So it's an option spread that has a 3-2 ratio, which obviously is the minimum in this scenario. And so it's 1, and that would be 1 unit. If you did 2 units, you would do a 6-3 ratio, right? So you get the idea. Or if it was just a single option, 1 unit would be 1 option. That would be the minimal, right? And so normally with the normal money management, you go 1 to 2 units, 2 to 3 units, 3 to 4 units, 4 to 5 units, 5 to 6 units, 6 to 7 units, et cetera, et cetera. So as you grow, you increase by 1 unit or whatever it is the money management says by how much you've grown. So what I'm going to introduce to you is that you change the unit size at some point in the future if you want to grow faster, okay? And you do that once you've already gone through the proving stage, once you've already built up some profits in the account. And I'm going to tell you there is a little bit more risk in doing this and giving back your profits, but I'll cover that in the next one. Nonetheless, it goes like this. If we're talking about 1 option, it would go 1 to 2 options, 2 to 3 options, 3 to 4 options, and then 4 to 8. So all of a sudden now I'm making 1 unit a 4 lot. And so I would still increase by 1 more unit, but that 1 more unit equals 4 more lots. So I go from 4 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 16, all the way up. So for the rest of the money management plan, I'm now doing 1 unit size equals 4 options as opposed to 1 unit size equals 2 options. All right, and I account for the extra drawdown that I would be taking on within how I apply that, which I'll get to in a minute as well. But in other words, at some point after the proving stage, which is usually at minimum 3 to 4 increases, you would change your unit. And your unit goes from 1 unit to 4 spreads, or 1 unit would equal 400 shares, or 1 unit would equal 4 options. You get the idea. So if I change my unit size, then I also have to change the delta because the drawdown changes. The single unit drawdown changes. So if my original delta, when I have a 1 unit equals 1 option scenario, if my original delta for that was $100, and now I change 1 unit to 4 options, then what I would do is I would increase my delta by the same amount, by the same ratio. Right? So now I'm accounting for that extra drawdown that will occur when the drawdown does occur if the maximum drawdown is actually experienced. If you average $10 per week for 5 years, the non-compounded profit potential is $2,600, right? And we went through this last time with compounding at a $100 delta, that same $2,600 turns into as much as $35,000. So very, very impressive, but as I pointed out in the last video, it's very slow. And so you might get through half of the 5-year period and you might be at 20% of the profit growth. And most of the profit growth comes on the end. But still, it's at 5 years, it's better than any stock that you're ever going to buy and hold. It just is. All right, so it's worth being patient to begin with. However, if you start off with 4 units instead of 1 unit, and you make $40 per week, right? So instead of making $10 with 1 unit per week, you make $40 with 4 units per week, right? Well, the non-compounded 5-year profit potential is $10,400. But by compounding it and increasing the delta based on the same ratio that you increased the lot size, that same $10,400 compounds into as much as $140,000. That's huge. Now again, that's 4 times that's 4 times what the 1 unit 1 option or 1 unit 1 minimum trade size equates to, but you're also taking on initially 4 times the amount of risk. All right, so you don't want to do that most of the time. So here is the contrast between the two. The blue line is the original compounding based on 1 constant unit equaling 1 option. That's the blue line. That's $35,000 at the end of 5 years. And then the orange line is compounding based on a constant 1 unit of equaling 4 options, and you're using a bigger delta to account for that bigger unit size. But still, it grows into over $140,000. It's tremendous, tremendous, powerful growth. And I'll revert back to what I stated in a previous video as well on why that is the case. But before I do that, here is the 1 unit. You start with 1 unit equaling 1 option, and then you switch to 1 unit equals 4 options after 4 original increases. So you go 1 unit equals 1 option, then you go to 2, and then you go to 3, and then you go to 4. And by the time you get to 4, you've gone through a proving stage. You've grown the account by about $1,000. And so on the next one, instead of going to 5, you go to 8. Right? So you're jumping by 3, but from that point on, you go from 4 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 16, at the same exact rate. And this is what the curve looks like by starting off with the 1 and then switching over to a 4. So you can see it's still very slow at the very beginning, but it begins to increase dramatically very, very quickly. Very quickly. And by the end of 5 years, it's astronomical. And again, this is if you have a strategy that just on a 1 unit basis only makes $10 a week on average. That's it. If you can just make $10 a week on average in a low risk strategy, and you use this plan where you start off with 1, you go to 2, you go to 3, you go to 4, and then instead of going from 4 to 5, you go from 4 to 8, and 8 to 12, 12 to 16, this is what happens. So again, if you don't understand the numbers, if you don't understand the concept of what the delta is and all that, because you haven't gone through the money management course yet, don't worry about that. Just understand it's very basic, it's very simple, and once you go through the money management course, it will become much more easily understood. But understand the concept here. Why do you want to focus, instead of trying to find the Holy Grail strategy, why do you want to focus on something as simple as just making $10 a week? This is why. The power of the compounding will far, 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 far exceed the best strategy non-compounded out there. Period. Period. All right. And it's much easier to find a strategy and to trade a strategy that only makes about $10 a week than to find and trade the best strategy that's possibly out there. Right. So that's why I want to emphasize this, and why I emphasize the risk at the beginning so much, because it's worth it at the end if you will stick with it and if you will keep it more simple with regard to the strategies that you trade. Okay. Now, in a previous video, why does this work this way? Well, in a previous video, I already covered that. And the reason it works is because if you can increase your profit potential, but keep the same ratio of drawdown, you will increase the power of the money management at the end of it, right? So here's a $5,000 5-year non-compounded profit potential with a $500 max drawdown. That's 10%. And after 5 years, using a delta that's 50% of the max drawdown, that can compound into $50,000, a 900% return. Well, if you can increase that to $10,000 and still only have a maximum of $500 drawdown, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. But if you simply double your lot size, and your 1 unit is 2 units, and is actually 2 lot sizes instead of 1, then what you will have done is you will increase your 5-year non-compounded profit potential to $10,000 and your max expected drawdown to $1,000, and that increases your compounded return to $100,000. There is benefit to the end if you are willing to increase your initial drawdown. So what I just showed you is a way to not increase your initial drawdown, but at the same time, at a later date, once you've proven what you can do, turn it to then ramp up the money management from that point on. Obviously, that begs the questions, well, what are the risks of switching and the risks throughout the 5-year period with each of these different approaches? And that's what I'm going to cover in the next TradeFocus Money Management video. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I will see you next time.